Welcome to the FPL USA Press Play Podcast. You got Bucks checking back in off the injured reserve bench. I had a brutal battle with the flu and I just barely came out on top. I'm looking a little bit like Jake Paul, having seen Mike Tyson throw in the white towel in the later rounds here. But enough about me. Let's transition to my beautiful co-host. He's bald, it's shiny, at FPL Blackwolf, aka Dan, and we're going to be celebrating. It's not just a happy new year here in the US of A, but we're also going to be celebrating your birthday, amigo. How the hell are you?
I am good. That was quite the introduction. It's good to have you back. We've missed you on this pod.
I've like 6 podcasts worth of energy to get off my chest.
I've been podding with Brian and listening to his constant green arrows and going up into the top 10K. So it's good to have my partner back who's down in the millions with me.
Yeah, we're in the shit together, baby.
Exactly.
Now, you should not be saying that though, because I think we're going to look right now at the game week 20 score, which is now comfortably in the rear view mirror. Thank God for that as a Chelsea fan. It's been a brutal stretch, but you smashed it this game week. Game week 20, that was your week, baby.
Yeah, I mean, I was smashing it until today, until Nottingham Forest played Wolves. So yeah, I finished on 68 points, which as of yesterday was a very, very big 100k green arrow. But because I don't own anyone from Nottingham Forest, including their defense or Chris Wood, it's actually turned out to be like a 20k green arrow, which when you're down in the 600,000s is nothing. So it's practically a great arrow. On top of that, they played Wolves, of course. So today was a bit of a disaster, but still, a green is a green. And I had Raúl Jimenez, who got 13 points, who really saved my ass this week. Nice to see an ex-Wolves player do so well.
I was going to say a lot of ex-Wolves, you know, players who used to have their jerseys hang in your man cave were really smashing it in game week 20. Unfortunately, none of them still play for Wolves because they were getting the battering, not doing the goal scoring or the hauling themselves.
Yeah, I mean, we have to shout out Raúl Jimenez. He's the all-time leading goal scorer from Mexico now in the Premier League with 55 goals. 40 of them came for Wolves. So I have a big soft spot for this guy. And he's got me the green arrow this week. And also, he kept Ipswich from winning, who are right on the tail of Wolves. And I'm getting very, very nervous. So good job, Raúl.
Yeah, I think this was an interesting lineup from Wolves that I'm sure we will detail
Yeah.
in our quick Wolves corner in a little bit. Now, we will give some flowers to Brian. He's missing in action. Real shame to have to be in Las Vegas for a big
Yeah.
conference for the next 4 days. Oh, how sorry we are for you, Brian. Damn asshole in the top 15K of FPL. This guy, even on his bad days, he's traveling for work. He's having a Mai Tai at the sports book tonight. The guy is coming up all roses this season. I can't get enough of this.
This guy has Brian Mbumo, and Brian Mbumo doesn't get an extra assist, and he's complaining about it, and he's sitting there with 19. We love you,
He ends
Brian,
up
but
on 74 points all out. I mean,
oh,
the guy, even as he's surging further up the rankings, he's still in our DMs complaining about something or another. Brian, be happy, baby. Come on.
we like to shit all over him when he's not here, but he's doing very, very good. He's having a good season. He's making good decisions. So fair play to him.
Yeah, and I think to his credit, I think he's going to have 3 free transfers, maybe even 4 free transfers as we go into the FA Cup matches with over a week off from FPL. Game week 21 will be a midweek. Now, on the flip side, I had an absolutely disastrous game week 20. I end up on 49 points all out, a big red arrow. I took some shame right on the chin because I benched João Pedro. His 9 pointer would have done a hell of good to get me at least towards a gray dot. So I'm back down towards the million range. And Dan, I think I was ahead of you at one point this game week. And then the absolute wheels fell off. I crash landed like a Boeing 787 this game week, and it was an ugly sight to behold. So, yeah, I got what I had coming to me. I think I had a total of 6 points in my defense, and I had 5 of them playing. So it was ugly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to give you some credit here, though. The reason you benched João Pedro is because the rest of your team is so good. I was honestly forced to play João Pedro against Arsenal because of how crap the rest of my team are. You had a very good starting 11, and I think the variance has just been absolutely brutal this week. If you didn't own Chris Wood and didn't own Brian Mbumo or Raul Jimenez, you got a red arrow. So I
Yeah,
think it's just luck.
I think I was like really coming. Says I had Nico Jackson, he was hot. Then I got Alexander Isak, he was banging in the goals. Now I brought in Gordon this game week, and I felt really good about his goal, which I think we could talk about it right now. That probably should not have stood as a goal. We're on the same
No.
page there.
Yeah, I agree.
That was a pretty clear and obvious handball, led directly to the turnover, which then started the sequence of play where Gordon scores the goal. And that's why Newcastle end up coming up on top in a big way. Now, Alexander Isak, he is the most informed player in the Premier League behind one Mo Salah. And I think you can pretty much go into every Newcastle game feeling confident that he's going to put the ball in the back of the net. Now, I thought, because everyone has Isak, getting Gordon would really help my rank. But the other player I was considering was Mbomo because he had Southampton. And so I'm sitting pretty, I'm like, oh, 7 points. That feels really good. Only for the strap on to come in a really painful way with those 19 points from Evil Brian just coming in and punishing me.
I mean, on top of that as well, you had Rico Lewis starting him against West Ham. That was looking like a banked clean sheet until they let up that stupid
Eight
goal to
points.
Fulkrug.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
painful.
So that was brutal. Plus, you have triple Liverpool, two attackers, and to only get 15 points from the three of them, including captain, is brutal against a terrible Man United who had the game of their lives. And I got lucky because I had Bruno Fernandes who got 7 points, the same as Salah. So it's just a bad week for variance, dude.
Yeah, you're rubbing my face in it a little bit, but it's deserved. Listen, I'm at the million rank and I call myself an FPL content creator expert. So expect there's going to be a lot more Bucks Wild content coming out in the next couple game weeks because at this point in the season, we are officially halfway through. So now it's nut crunching time. And there's going to be the Ass Man chip, there's going to be the second half chips to be played. And I don't want to be behind you guys by 100 points. That's no fun for anyone. And so if I'm going to be 100 points back, why not take some swings to be maybe 150 points back or close the gap to be 25 points back? So uh, I think that's my mentality. I always have fun with FPL. I don't let it be something that really ruins my day. Chelsea, that's a story that I am not in as healthy a relationship with by any means. But speaking of that, we should talk about a manager who's having everything going right in game week 20 and is going into this break on a serious pedestal. You want to give credit to the manager of the game week, Black Wolf? I'll give you some pronunciation time here.
Yeah, so our manager of the game week is Igor Tumchenko, who got 99
Ooh,
points
brilliant.
with squad Marcos Alonso. So you must like that as an ex-Chelsea player.
Brilliant.
He had Haaland captain for 26 points. Haaland finally came good this week. I was saying it on the pod last week that I kind of want him to start smashing it, so people are trying to figure out how to get him back in. That's maybe a way me and you to get back up the ranks if everyone's like messing their team apart, ripping their team apart to get Haaland back in.
I'm
But
hearing
we
a
can.
lot of managers thinking about wild card very early because if Holland's going to be scoring goals, that might give you a couple game weeks advantage, and you just rip your team up. You get Holland, Palmer, and Salah in with some benchies otherwise. I'm not there yet. We're in agreement. It's way too soon for that, right?
Yeah, I agree. But yeah,
Okay.
he had Haaland captain for 26 points. He got Kirkes with 12 points. Palmer and Vandenberg with 10 points each. That's a very random haul he got there. He also had Ahmad, Solanke, and João Pedro with 9 points each, and then Salah with the seven. So he had a top 3K game week score, which, I think the aim is to try and get under a million every week, and you're going to get a green arrow and get quite a good rank. So to get top 3K is insane. And then just a shout out to our league leader, who is Sirojidin, I think is how you say it. He also captained Haaland, and he is currently in the top 1K. So we've got some good managers in our league.
I think Sirojidin is running away with it, but we have, I think, five of our top managers are inside the top 10K. It's a very competitive league when Brian is not even in the kind of first couple spots. And that lad is all the way up at around like 16K overall. So congratulations to you, Sorojian. Congratulations to you, Igor. Both of you absolutely smashed it in game week 20. And long may the success and your rise in the press play premiership continue, because it's looking like Sorojian is in prime position to take home that free kit at the end of the season. With that, stay tuned. We will be announcing another giveaway in the next couple weeks. Make sure you're following at FPL USA Press Play on social media. That way you can be aware of that announcement. With that, we'll take our first break. When we come back, we'll just chat a little bit deeper on what happened in game week 20 and some big picture stuff from the first half of the season.
All right, so how about we start with Southampton and Brentford? I think it's clear, Books, that Southampton are by far the worst team in the entire league by a long way, don't you think?
Yeah, pretty clearly. And it's 2 seasons back to back now that a team that is in white and red stripes are just absolute dog shit. I don't know what's up with that. Last year was Chef U. I think they were the worst Premier League team I've ever seen. But Southampton, they're giving a real go of it because I think they're on 6 points through 20 game weeks. That's that's pretty historically bad, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, they can't defend for shit. They just really can't. I think if you're having a player playing them, I think it's immediate captaincy, at least a decision you have to make there. Like right now, they're going to play Manchester United the next game week. I'm looking pretty good having Bruno Fernandes. I am tempted to captain him, but we'll talk about that later. I think
Oh,
we
I
do need to.
definitely think they are so bad that it's almost a miracle when they score a goal and they're just conceding left, right, and center. And I think
Yeah,
you look at the form that Brentford were in away from home in the first half of the season. Well, it all came back around and they looked like world beaters. They looked like Galacticos in Real Madrid kits, the way that they were just banging goals in past the Southampton keeper. And I actually feel bad for certain ones of their players because the reality is they might be even worse in the second half of the season. There are certain players like Leslie Ugachukwu, who's on loan from Chelsea. He might be recalled as part of the news. Hardwood Bellis is a player that's in the news potentially as a potential loan option to other Premier League and other teams around Europe looking for reinforcements. So this team, they're going to look a lot stronger in the championship next season. And that's really, I think, what every eye is focused on in the ownership room at Southampton. It's just, next year getting another couple 100 million in their pockets because this is a lost season at this point.
yeah, I agree completely. And then sticking with this game, I think we have to talk about Mbumo getting the 19 points. I know you had a question last week, Books, where you wanted us to rank Gordon, Mbumo, and Eze. And I'll admit I put Mbumo third because of their fixtures and because of how good the other two's fixtures are. But I'm willing to hold my hands up and say I'm probably going to be wrong on that because this guy just delivers every single week, no matter who they're playing. They're playing like Man City and Liverpool at home the next two games, but I can see him scoring in them because of how good they are at home. And I think all of those people, including myself, who took him out of their team because he had a run of 3 or 4 games of not doing anything, that was probably a mistake. And I know Brian got lucky because he wanted to do that, but then he had an injury or something like that that forced him to keep him. So
Yeah, the
that went really
Bruno
well for me.
Red saved Brian there, if you remember.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think it's just a great point to double click on Brentford. They are a class team. I think they are one of the best run small clubs in the Premier League. I think we can safely say that at this point in time. And Mbumo and Vissa as a double up in their attack. I think and Bomo, very clearly, he's just one of the best players in the entire FPL game, especially players per value. He takes penalties. He's on tons of set pieces. He's the little engine with a beard that could for Brentford. And he's at the center of everything good that happens for the Bees. Now, come game week 23, which is not too far in the future, I think it will be a priority to have a double up of both Visa and Mbomo in place. And so I think that's what I'm kind of looking towards with some of my transfer plans because they're just elite. I mean, Visa had a late goal in this one. He also ends up on double digits. And Mbomo, like you said, he was the top point scorer this game week. 19 points, 2 goals, an assist, clean sheet, and 3 bonus points. And yet it still wasn't enough to keep his name mate Brian Shin and our pod partner happy. He wanted even more points. So yeah, especially when Brentford are at home, they are a hell of a team to play against. So yeah, I would not be selling him Bomo. He's a season keeper, I think, and we all learned that in a hard way the last couple game weeks, wouldn't you say?
I agree. And I was saying on the pod last week, this is kind of why I kept Bruno Fernandes, because it gives me the funds to go straight back to Mbumo if I want to at some point soon. And I think I probably will around game week 23, like you said. Depends how many transfers I've managed to hold on to at the time. But that's why I said I think it's kind of important to either save your transfers or have someone in your team who you can use as kind of a cash cow to take out, to put in a player like Mbumo straight away with one free transfer. He's
Yeah, I
looking
rate
like
that.
almost a must-have straight away, right again.
Yeah, and with the form that Manchester City and maybe even Liverpool defense are in right now,
Yeah,
I agree with what you said earlier. I think there's no reason he can't get a at least a return in both those matches. And then if you're sitting pretty with him in place like managers like Brian are, right? You're just laughing all the way to the bank because you're a transfer ahead and you're probably 20, 25 points ahead of the field with those moves. So yeah, credit to Bumo. He's definitely one of the 5 best midfielders from an FPL perspective.
100%.
All right, let's talk about Newcastle. They're one of the other hot teams in the Premier League right now. They started this match against Spurs with the wrong boots on, a la Mark Cucurella. Solanke opened the scoring, I think, within the first 5 minutes. Spurs were 1-0 up. It was a disaster start for Newcastle. Have no fear. The refs and the Gordies were here to right set everything, right?
Yeah, that was a clear handball. The rules clearly state if a handball leads to a goal, even if it's accidental, even if it's the slightest touch, it should not count if it's part of the same play. So I have no idea how they've decided that that shouldn't have counted. I really don't understand.
Yeah,
VAR has been
VAR are
terrible this
on.
whole weekend.
They've been terrible pretty much all season. They're on their fuck around and find out for another season going. If there was an award for the PGMOL, for FA, and for the VAR, all three of them would be on the podium this season because they're all having shockers.
Yeah, really, really bad. I just don't understand it. And then, as usual, Isaac got his goal. Like you said, he's getting points every single week, but he's so highly owned now. I guess he's not that highly owned. He's owned by 3%. Oh, that's kind of half the game. So I think most engaged managers have him at this point. So I think we're already at the point where if he gets a goal, you're not going to be really jubilant about it because you know everybody owns him. In our league, for example, that you and I play in, he's 100% owned.
100% owned. Every
So
engaged manager has Isak
yeah,
at this point. So that's where I figured, Gordon would be the edge. And he was in this game week. And he really, you know, just speaking about the inconsistency in some of these fouls that are given, the fact that the goal stands that he scores off the very clear Joe Linton handball, that one goes through. But then he pretty clearly gets elbowed in the face in the box, and that one's just waved off. Whereas the lap, is just, he's delapping himself to the floor 2 game weeks in a row, and they're both given as penalties. Just the lack of consistency. I mean, it makes it hard for someone who played the game to even know what a foul is anymore.
yeah.
And the way that you can manhandle goalkeepers, the game is in a weird place, I think, from a refereeing standpoint. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Like I've been watching this sport for what 30 years now, and even I'm getting to the point where I just don't understand how they're making some of these decisions. We saw it today. I'm gonna take my bias hat off. Aitner handball today in the
Oh,
Nottingham
so
Forest game
obvious.
was so obvious. How that's not been given, I will never understand. If that was the other way around, I'd be furious. I just don't
I agree with
understand.
you. I'm glad you could take the Wolves mask off for 1 second and howl at the refs for the other team because that was a miscarriage of justice in the Nuno Derby. And I think, why don't we just skip there? Let's talk about that match today. Morgan Gibbs White, Nuno, they travel back to that shithole. Oh, excuse me, travel back to Wolverhampton. And they absolutely battered Wolves. I think this is an interesting study in two teams just kind of stuck in different places in their current reality because Forest can't make a foot wrong. But Wolves seem to, one step back, one step forward, two step back kind of season. So, what did you see
Yeah.
in this match?
I mean, first off, we were absolutely decimated with injuries this week. Plus, we didn't have Cunha. We played five at the back with one centre back,
One center back, I saw that.
and the other centre backs were Doherty and Aitnari, who were both wingers. So we actually did pretty well, I think, in the first half, and we probably should have went into the at halftime in the lead. The difference is Nottingham Forest with their build-up play, they were so patient and they were so clinical, whereas Wolves were just missing chance after chance, particularly Strand Larsen. The
Oh,
second
dude,
half,
he should have had a hat trick today.
he should have. And the
But I
second
think that's
half,
promising for a player of his age in that team because he really does seem to listen. Biases aside, I'm not a Wolves fan. I think you can hear that from if you listen to this podcast. But I have a soft spot for them. I think Strand Larsen is just de facto a better player than Rasmus Højlund, and that was borne out from watching this game. I mean, you just see the impact. Strand Larsen, he's getting to every last ball. He's putting the ball on net. I think he had three or four chances that all had a really good shot of ending up in the back of the goal. So it's just one of those seasons right now for Forrest where this Sells guy doesn't seem to be very good, but he's falling into clean sheets left, right, and center also. It's crazy.
yeah, they're a typical Nuno team. They focus on defense first, they focus on patience and really slow build-up play. And then all of a sudden, when they get a counter attack, they just turn up the speed and they're so clinical. They're just such a good team. But just going back to Wolves, like I know I've been saying this all season, but I don't think we're as terrible as our position says we are, and as many managers think we are. We've been decimated with injuries. We've lost like all of our good centre backs. So I'm hoping in this January transfer window we can really bolster up that defence. We've already actually signed a defender called Agbadou from the French league who looks
I
really,
was going to
really
say
good.
20 mil. You know anything
Yeah.
about this guy?
Honestly, not a lot, but I've been watching a lot of videos. I've been looking at his stats. He seems like a very good player. He pocketed Kylian Mbappe in one game, so that makes me a little promised.
But
But
will he be able to pocket, Chris Wood on a cold night in the Premier League?
I don't know. That's another annoying thing that I'm ranting here. I'm sorry, but today Santi Bueno, he played really, really well against Chris Wood. I don't know if you watched the game, but like he stopped him almost the entire game. He
I
let him
watched
have
it.
one chance and he scored. But the rest of the time, Chris Wood couldn't do anything. This guy was winning every single challenge against him.
And we should say the goal he scored was kind of a mishit.
Yeah.
You know, he really should have had a penalty, and we could both agree that that was a
Yes.
pretty clear and obvious handball. But that being said, the fact that he's even scoring when he's meaning to, hurt a child in the 16th row. It's just one of those seasons right now. And sometimes strikers are in that form where, they even hit it with their off foot. They kick it into the ground as opposed to a straight connection. And sometimes it just ends up in the back of the goal. Soccer is one of those sports where you can kind of be more lucky than good and still end up on top.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I genuinely think if Wolves had Cunha today and if they had Andre, who is currently in Brazil because of he just had a baby, and we didn't have Semedo, and if we had two or three better centre backs who were about to sign, I think Wolves would have won that game. I don't
So
think it's as bad as people make out. I think this new manager is very tactically astute. I think we look like a much better team. He's making good substitutions. We just need to get rid of the dead weight and bring in a couple of good new signings. Huang Chan, by the way, again, awful today.
Oh,
I
he
don't know
he
what's
missed a
happened to this
golden
guy.
chance or two. I watched that game. I actually thought tactically, Wolves had tons of possession. They had tons of attacking chances, but they were wasteful. And I agree with you. I think Cunha being in that team, there's reports he just is re-signing an extension with Wolves. I mean, you have to be celebrating that just as fervently as you're going to celebrate your birthday that's coming up tomorrow with that news, if true, because I think Arsenal were pretty hot to get his signature there. So that is brilliant news. And I think if I'm hearing you correctly, Wolves need to be spending this summer. Wolves need to be spending this winter window if they're serious about staying up in the Premier League because they clearly have the talent, they have the goals in the team. It's whether they can keep teams at 1 or 2 goals, not be consistently conceding 3 or 4.
I think if we make 2 or 3 good defensive signings and keep Cunha, we'll be totally fine.
Okay, let's take our final break. When we come back, we will just give light preview on some of the news that's coming out of the transfer window and what we're thinking with our transfers ahead of a little bit of a welcome break from the FPL calendar when we come back.
What? Okay, so I think one thing we should highlight, Bux, is West Ham looking like they're about to fire Lopetegui and probably bringing in, I've heard rumors that it's going to be Graham Potter. How do you feel about that with him being an ex-Chelsea boss?
Oh, it's great. It's great news. Hopefully, they cover a portion of his salary. That way, for FFP reasons, Chelsea don't have to sell, my oldest child in order to balance the books this season. Anything to help out the Chelsea finances, I am keen on. And yeah, it's probably long overdue. This Lopetegui guy, he stinks. He stunk at Wolves, and good riddance. He has no place in the Premier League where it is a gauntlet of the top managers in world football. So good for West Ham. Unfortunately, they don't have their best player fit right now, which is Jared Bowen. Otherwise, I think we would be looking at a potential immediate kind of new manager bounce. But their schedule also sucks. I think they're one of the teams like Southampton that right now is in a place where you should be targeting them with your FPL assets.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's important we take this moment to highlight that the January transfer window is now open. So we're going to see a lot of teams bringing in new players, as well as we have chip season coming up. So I think it's important to say that if you can hold your free transfers at this point, it is more important than ever to do so. Because who knows, maybe one of these teams with a great run of fixtures signs some world-class player who goes immediately into their 11 and you're going to want him in. Who knows? We just don't know that. So I think hold your transfers if possible.
Yeah, and I think especially teams that are in crisis, whether it's with injuries or towards the bottom of the table in a relegation battle. I mean, Everton, for example, they desperately need a goal scorer. And I think that if you saw that they signed someone even half decent that could lead the line there, they might be on the menu pretty quickly. Similarly, a team like Spurs, a team like Manchester United, these are teams with big aspirations of a top four, let alone European competitions. And right now they're sitting in the bottom half of the table. So I expect a team like Manchester United is they're already in talks with Dusan Vlahovic from Juventus, maybe sending Xerxes back the other way. I think if Vlahovic came in at 6 or 6.5 million, he'd all of a sudden be a pretty interesting player for an FPL perspective. So again, I think more information is critically important at this point in the season. And just be aware, game week 21 is a midweek fixture, as this coming weekend there will be FA Cup ties. So like Dan said, I totally agree and echo your statement. Patience is key when it comes to using your free transfers this week. No reason to rush into it. There could be injuries, and we're just expecting that maybe come next Sunday when we record the next podcast, that will be a more opportune time to actually hit the button and lock in your transfer moves.
Definitely, because of course we also have the cup fixtures. We have both the EFL Cup and the FA Cup before the next game week. So definitely hold your transfers.
All right. I want to just double down here at the end of the episode. Wish you a happy new year and a happy birthday. If you
Thank
are
you.
keen, you could share how old you're turning with the listeners, as well as any plans, as well as maybe where to send you a nice gift, such as a feet pick or a nudie, or even, your favorite condom brand to Dan's house. He lives in California somewhere.
Oh my God. But yes, I will be turning 36. I think probably when this episode is released on
Woo!
Tuesday, January 7th, I'll be turning 36. I feel really old, Bucks. when you go past 35, that's when you really start to feel old. But yeah, I don't know how I'm going to be celebrating. We tend to do surprises for each other's birthdays, so I don't know. I imagine
Can you
something fun.
share what was 35, which I guess is more of a traditional milestone? What was the surprise birthday celebration you and your wife did? You remember?
I
He's
remember.
so old, he can't
I'm
even
not.
remember,
I
ladies and
can't
gentlemen.
remember.
Oh my
I
God.
can't remember. I'm so old, but I'm sure it's going to be something nice. I'm going to have a great time, and then we go back to the reality of February.
No, man, you deserve it. Happy early birthday. I'm thrilled to be podcasting with you. You are a legend, not just in the FPL USA community, but just in real life. You're a good person. And
Thank you.
you deserve a 2025 filled with good health, lots of reasons to celebrate, and lots of green arrows. And maybe because I'm being so gracious in leveling those compliments on you, maybe I could get some green arrows and good health as well. Because if you have young kids right now, and the flu is going around. My youngest even had RSV. It was a December to forget in the Bucksbaum household. So we will be turning the page into 2025, looking at many more reasons to celebrate, many more fun podcasts to record, and lots of smiles and green arrows around the FPL game and IRL in real life. So best of luck to you, Dan, as you turn 36. Best of luck to your Wolves. And god damn it, maybe even a Chelsea result one of these days. Come on. Is that too much to ask for?
No, I hope so, dude. Next game week against Bournemouth, it's coming.
Dude, they have not dropped points. They are unbeaten in their last 8 games. So as someone who is wagering their kids' college savings away on Chelsea these last couple game weeks, I might not be there. I might not be there in the midweek.
But yeah,
All right, we will be back with our Game Week 21 preview in the next couple days. I think if you aren't already, follow us on social at FPL USA Press Play. For the hosts, I'm Bucks. You can find me at FPL USA Bucks. And that's Black Wolf, aka Dan, the birthday boy. Where can everyone find you, Dano?
I'm at FPL_Blackwolf on both Blue Sky and X.
And where can they send any nudies and cash gifts?
My DMs are open, so all of the nudes you want to
Oh,
send.
spicy. All
Not you
right.
though, Books. I've got enough of you.
Yeah. So is my wife. Later, everyone.